If there was ever a handgun cartridge with a genuinely legendary mystique, it has to be the 357 Magnum. Even the name just sizzles. 357. It's a cartridge that is synonymous with no more screwing around. Known for screaming velocities, deep penetration, and an ear-splitting blast, it has been a mainstay of hunting and self-defense since its inception. But no other cartridge out there has been subjected to as much myth, tall tales, folklore, and outright fabrication. Some folks claim that it's nothing more than a loud .38 special, and others claim it is the deadliest handgun round on Earth. The truth as ever is out there, but we've got to dig to get to it. Keep watching, and I'll tell you everything you need to know about the 357 Magnum that no one else is. I would have hoped this one would be obvious, but based on some recent commentary I've seen on social media, some people seem to genuinely believe that the 357 Magnum is merely a spicy .38 special. And no, they weren't kidding, per se. Indeed, the .38 special has come a long way since its inception at the beginning of the 20th century. Modern Plus P .38 special loads produce very respectable velocities and good overall performance. But make no mistake here, the .38 Special is in no way equivalent to the 357. The .38 Special has a SAMI-specified maximum pressure of 17,500 psi. The 357 Magnum has a stomping 35,000 psi maximum pressure. That translates into a huge velocity gap in terms of performance, and the 357 Magnum will push bullets of a similar weight far faster than the humble .38. And it's capable of pushing much heavier bullets a whole lot further. By way of for instance, your average 125 grain Plus P .38 load clips along at about 1,000 feet per second, give or take. The same projectile out of the same length barrel launched by the 357 will cruise along at a scorching 1,450 feet per second. That's no joke, folks. You can't get something for nothing, and in this case, you get the something from the 357 Magnum only at the cost of a dramatically increased blast and recoil, with many legacy or cheaper loads and extremely large, bright flash. These are all legitimate tactical considerations for self-defense and for hunting, especially if hunting dangerous game. Recoil slows down shot recovery and makes it more difficult to place accurate follow-up shots. This could make a difference in all kinds of self-defense situations, or if you're staring down the barrel at a charging, dangerous critter. But I repeat myself, for folks who are just having fun on the range, plinking and enjoying themselves with friends, blast and flash might even be an enjoyable spectacle. Practically, though, both are problematic. Blast, more than recoil in many cases, will induce an accuracy-destroying flinch that's difficult to train out of. Flash is likewise a distraction, and is especially troublesome if you have to defend yourself in low light conditions, because it can temporarily eliminate your visual horizon. These issues can be mitigated somewhat with careful load selection, especially ones made with modern high-performance hollow point projectiles, low powder, and optimal velocities in mind to help tame recoil somewhat. But they cannot be completely reduced. The 357 Magnum is always going to be harder to handle compared to its smaller .38 Special sibling. If you take nothing else away from this video, remember this: the performance of the 357 Magnum is highly dependent on barrel length. That voluminous case capacity means big powder charges, but even with fast-burning powder, a longer barrel is required to yield substantially high velocities. It really is no exaggeration to say that a given 357 Magnum load cooking along out of a 4-inch or 6-inch barrel might be the fist of God, but the same load could turn decidedly underwhelming coming out of a shorter 2-inch pipe. That's because without the added barrel length, much of that burning powder charge will simply burn off into the atmosphere beyond the muzzle, uselessly, rather than generating gas behind the bullet as it should. Want some hard data? Let's look at the 130 grain Federal Hydra shock load, one that is noted for good all-around performance in 357. Out of a 4-inch barrel, that load produces an average velocity of 1405 FPS. Out of a 2-inch barrel, just 1175 feet per second. You are losing 115 FPS per inch of barrel. Now, this isn't necessarily a deal breaker, as we will learn in a moment. Many projectiles have a generous operational range, at which they will perform as advertised, meaning they might not be too adversely affected by reduced velocity. But as expected, you can't say that for all projectiles. Some work much better at a modest velocity, and others much better at a higher velocity. You've got to do your homework when choosing 357 Magnum loads for serious purposes, be it for self-defense, hunting, silhouette shooting, or anything else. There's more to learn about the 357 Magnum, but if you are enjoying this video, take just a second to hit like, subscribe, and the notification bell. Those 3 clicks help us out more than you know. Thanks so much! Here's a bit of myth that piggybacks on my previous point, and one that drives me crazy. There are young and old shooters alike out there that claim there's no difference between the 357 Magnum and 38 Special in terms of performance once you get down to a 2.5-inch or 2-inch barrel. This is patently false, even if you are comparing a plus P or plus P plus 38 Special load. This is not to say there isn't a good reason to choose the 38 Special instead. You can make a great case for that, as we will learn. But it is false to say that the raw ballistic performance is the same. Let's try to keep things as apples to apples as we can. Consider the 129 grain Federal Hydroshock plus P load in the 38 Special. Despite generating significantly higher pressure, out of a 2-inch barrel, this round only achieves an average velocity of right at 800 feet per second. That's almost leisurely. Now let's look back at the 130 grain Hydroshock load from the Hot Rod 357. Out of a 2-inch barrel, it clocks in at a comparatively sizzling 1,175 feet per second, 375 feet per second faster for a virtually identical projectile. Regrettably, that extra velocity comes at a terrible price out of a short barrel revolver, downright abusive recoil, titanic flash, and an eardrum rupturing report. Considering what a short barrel revolver is typically used for, close range self-defense, is that a good trade-off? That's for you to decide. But I can tell you from my training and experience that for 90% of shooters, the answer is a definite no. What's more important when assessing handgun cartridges for performance and a self-defense role against other humans? I'll cut to the chase and say simply that reliable, consistent penetration is the most important benchmark factor when it comes to terminal performance. After that, we want a gun and cartridge combo that is easy to control and has plenty of ammunition. It's because handguns, broadly, simply poke holes in their targets. When vital structures are damaged or destroyed by the passage of the bullet, that is when we start getting effect. People get wrapped around the axle, looking at muzzle energy, foot-pounds of energy transfer to the target, and non-factors like hydrostatic shock and temporary cavitation. Temporary cavitation is indeed a genuine wounding factor with rifle cartridges, but handgun rounds just don't achieve the needed level of velocity. All we should care about with handguns is how deeply the bullet will penetrate reliably, how big the permanent wound channel is, and hopefully, good performance from our chosen hollow point. Bullets that expand reliably and maintain their weight are preferred, but ultimately, if they will penetrate deeply enough, they will do the job. Accordingly, most pros in this sector look at the FBI standard for handgun penetration of between 12 and 18 inches for determining whether or not a handgun cartridge is good to go for self-defense. The simple fact of the matter is that most modern 38 Special loads will reliably attain this level of penetration. They are, to put it succinctly, plenty good enough. Looking at 357 Magnum loads from the same manufacturers, it's hard to find even a single load that won't reliably meet the same standard. However, they tend to penetrate more deeply inside the FBI-specified range, and are more likely to overpenetrate and do so more often. If we are just concerned with delivering accurate, timely shots to vital zones on a human attacker, should we prioritize a cartridge that is easier to shoot well and quickly, and one that is less abusive to the shooter? I say yes. I know it is heresy to the .357 Magnum faithful, among whom I count myself, but for self-defense purposes, a good, hot .38 Special makes a lot more sense most of the time. I stand by what I said concerning the .357 Magnum for self-defense. The .38 makes more sense for more people these days, but there's no getting around the fact that the .357 Magnum has far greater potential anytime you're worried about intermediate barriers like automobile bodies and glass or heavy clothing. That extra penetration makes a big difference. Likewise, the drastically higher velocities it produces, especially out of longer barrels, make long-range shots with the .357 a snap. Plus, for specialized applications like bringing down large, tough, and dangerous critters like bear, elk, hogs, and so forth, a cast projectile or other optimized hunting bullet from the classic Magnum is heavy medicine. .357 Magnum carbines, most commonly found as lever actions, are extremely popular because that extra barrel length yields truly blistering velocities. With the right load, the .357 Magnum can compete with the .30 carbine. The best advice I can give you is to understand your objective and then carefully review published data on the ammunition that is available to you, and make sure to cross-reference it against the barrel length of your firearm so you know what to expect from it. And that's all I've got for you. That's everything you need to know, practically speaking, about the .357 Magnum. This venerable cartridge is the progenitor of all Magnum handguns, and it has stuck around and remained a benchmark today for a very good reason. Now we come to the only question that matters. Are you a .357 Magnum fan, or are you happy with the .38 Special? Let me know, and tell me why down in the comments so we can all fight about it together. And before you go, make sure to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any great upcoming videos here on All About Survival. Stay safe out there, and don't forget your ear pro. And I will catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and take care.